You are listening to Dumpster Diving with
Janice
and Jane. And we have our special guest, JP Reynolds, in the house with us again. Yay! We're so excited. Well, you know what, JP, I think, did we ever have you share a song?
No, I was just thinking the same thing. Get it out of my head.
Yeah, what are you listening to, JP? What did you say, Janice?
Get it out of my head, man. I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah. What's your favorite song right now, JP, that we can add to our playlist?
Oh, you took me by surprise. I was not prepared for that question.
Oh yeah.
Surprise! There's lots of surprises in the dumpster.
I don't I don't have a particular song. I cannot carry a tune. I only remember lyrics after I've been drinking for a while.
Oh, nice.
But I do. I'm a big fan of Kygo and his remixes.
Oh wow.
So I really love his remix of Higher Love.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Love that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah, I like it. Okay, we could totally add that to our playlist.
So that's I'm in the car, long distance driving, blast it.
Love it.
Absolutely.
I didn't
love
know
that so much.
JP. Oh my gosh. Well, we are here recording an episode today, and we have been talking about a lot of things, but I think we landed on confidence. I think that that's going to be our topic for today, which I love. And JP is in the business of confidence. And sorry, listeners, I have chirping birds in the background this time, and I don't have my HyperX microphone, so this may sound like complete shit. So I apologize, but we're going to keep moving on. And we also need to talk about what we're having tonight.
Okay, I'm about to disappoint the whole world. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm having water. I'm having water, and that wasn't even on purpose. It's just how it worked out. So I'm so sorry. Don't worry. I'll come fully charged next time. But yeah, tonight it's what. So here's part of the reason why I do once a month. I do a 24-hour fast. And today was that day, which is why I was like, you guys, I got to delay by 10 minutes. I got to eat. I can't like come into this conversation without eating anything. And so, I don't usually necessarily have wine on those days because, 24-hour fast. It's, just trying to keep it clean. So yeah.
We get that. We get that. And we can honor the habit that you are creating, a good habit, and you're staying up on it and staying consistent. So good for you.
Exactly.
Good for you.
Yes.
I had a crazy, weird, frustrating day. Yeah. And so I'm smoking. And gelato, I want to say it's like, I don't know. I can't remember what flavor, whatever they call it, but it's gelato. It's a hybrid. It's great.
So, but is this one of the ones that's supposed to give you energy, help you chill? Which version?
It's right in between.
Wow.
Right in between. Yep. So I'm a little like meh, but I'm a little like, hey, it's cool. I'm here.
That sounds like the lyrics to a country western song.
It does.
A really sad one at this moment, but it could get better.
How about you, JP? Any beverage or other things this evening?
When I go into a conversation such as this, I have my PG Tips tea.
Oh, look at you.
Yes,
I like that.
A spot of tea for a stimulating conversation. Call me old-fashioned. So
that is actually old-fashioned. So I am in fact going to call you old-fashioned, but I love it. It's very sweet.
I also love an old-fashioned.
I was about to say.
Because I wanted to make sense on this podcast, I thought I will forego the old-fashioned and just be old-fashioned with a spot of tea.
There you go.
That means we have to have you on again later with the old-fashioned so we can compare.
Here.
Kind of do a with or without version of JP. I love it.
I like that idea. I like it. And then we'll all just need to meet in person and do an episode, and we'll all smoke weed and see how that goes.
I love it. All right.
All right. My children are probably not listening. And if they are, they're probably going to like, wait, what is happening right now? What is happening?
Weed and alcohol are legal and we don't abuse it. So that's all I have to say about it.
That's true. That's it. That's it. But you know, it's that whole, the first time you actually think about your parent doing something, right? And it's like, whoa, that's not who you are, right? That's not how I know you, or what have you. So
Right. You're changing.
oh my God.
Jane came into your life and now you're different. I don't like this version of you.
I know. We're supposed
You
to
can blame
be.
me. It's okay.
I'm not going to say anything because it'll just take us down a rabbit hole, but just keep talking. Keep talking.
Well, be confident in your comment, JP.
That's right.
If you knew my parents, you would know that most people thought they were smoking most of the time, and they weren't.
Funny.
That's awesome.
Yes. My mother, yes, my mother was quite a character. And she didn't need any stimulant to be
nice.
Quite a character, yes.
Very
yeah.
nice. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. So we are, like you said, Jane, we're going to talk about confidence today, mostly because we can, not because we had some well laid out plan to say this week in dumpster diving, we have to talk about confidence, but more because we have our own stuff going on in our world. We talked about that in our last episode, just kind of the stuff in our dumpsters. And so I came across this article that JP posted on his LinkedIn, and it was about the 5 habits of confident people. And so of course I clicked on it because JP's a genius. And so I, have to read everything he posts. And as I read through the 5 habits, I was like, yeah, right. Again, not like rocket science, but more like these things are a little bit obvious. And yet when you think about them in this way, habits, and I love thinking about habits because habits are things you can develop. Like anybody can develop any habit. Anybody can get rid of any habit, right? And so it's possible, it's doable. So if you're somebody who tends to be someone who shies away from conflict, who is just a little bit more kind of on the quiet side in conversations, or who in general feels a lack of, or not a lack of, but I guess some degree of discomfort in social situations, or whether it's professionally, personally, or what have you, this idea of developing habits around confidence is something I think would be really useful. And so that's why I brought it to you guys. And thank you both for being willing to say, yeah, let's have a conversation about it.
Well, I'm glad that you did, because you can be confident in many different things, but not all things. And so it's not necessarily just being confident in general. It's just, maybe you're really confident in your relationship outside of work and everything. And then maybe work, you're like a meek mouse or something, and you want to gain that confidence.
Yeah.
And the great thing about this, what we're going to talk about, is it's all things to work towards. So
exactly.
I'm excited for it.
I love it.
The definition of confidence I came across eons ago, and that remains my favorite, is a confident person owns their strengths and recognizes their weaknesses.
Nice.
And if you only own your strength, you have to run the danger of becoming cocky and arrogant.
Okay.
And if you only recognize your weaknesses, your stumbling blocks, you will become too humble and ineffective. And the confident person has that sweet spot, that balance.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a really great analogy. I really like that. That's a great.
And it ties into what you said, Jane, in terms of we're not necessarily all confident in all things. And so to your point, JP, if you can recognize that sweet spot, right, and that's where you reside, so to speak, then you're that person people think in general are confident. I love that.
I was reminded of that last night. I went to a networking event.
Okay.
And I was invited by a person that I've done a lot of work with. So why wouldn't I go? And I looked at the guest list, and I knew there would be people there who I have collaborated with. I cannot tell you how much I dread networking events.
Oh, wow.
I am able, all right, and Jane, you have seen me in action. I am able to speak to any number of people, and to do so with a relative amount of ease and confidence. Put me last night. And it was, dear God, I need a drink just to hold. I don't need to drink the drink. I just want to hold the drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then pray that somebody will come up and start talking to me.
Oh, how fun.
Right.
And again, it speaks to, in one particular setting, I am confident.
Yes.
In another setting, I am, please, somebody help me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my experience is we are all that way.
Yes.
We are. And to be 100% transparent, I have the same thing, JP. Like, I can get in front of 400 people and talk about anything that you want me to talk about. I did this training today for Lunch and Learn, and I waited till the last minute to put together the presentation. I put it together yesterday and rocked their world about how to healthy habits of effective meetings.
Like plan in advance?
Like, come to it on time. No, I already knew what I was going to talk about. I put the slide deck together yesterday, but like, I already knew everything that I was going to do. I just put it together. But that, like, confident, no problem. Like, yeah, blah, 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 go, da, 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 da. But networking, like, it's so uncomfortable. And it's, I don't think that I'm not confident, but it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, it almost is icky. Like, I don't want to, like, I don't know. And
you want to know
better.
Well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Janice.
No, I was going to say, here's my secret, because I don't have that issue, but here's why. I make my purpose when I go to things like that. I do feel uncomfortable. I had the issue of feeling uncomfortable, right? Like, as it's approaching. But when I walk in, my job is to find somebody else standing there by themselves and go talk to them. Like, I make myself the person who goes and talks to people who are by themselves. So it gives me a purpose, which puts aside then the whole, like, being the person waiting there wondering if somebody's, I just like, and if I come to you, Jane, and we're talking and then somebody else and you go, then I go find the next person who's not talking to somebody and I bring them into it.
So Janice, the reason why I was laughing is because I actually wrote a blog post about that. And last night, as I'm at the networking event, it's like, okay, so I want to go up to somebody who's alone. And then it's like, no, I don't want to go up to anybody who's alone. No, I want them to come up to me. Right? No, I'm going to go get a drink and talk to the bartender.
Oh, that's funny.
But I since I have written a blog post with that suggestion, let me give you a virtual fist bump. And yes, I agree.
There you go. Makes it easy. Makes it easy.
I will say, I learned the value of that years ago because I was at a networking event and a woman came up to me and she said to me, "You look as alone as I am." And I'm thinking, okay, this sounds like the opening line of a romantic comedy. But we started talking and we networked. We actually continued to network and form a professional relationship.
Nice.
And a lot of good came from this woman taking the initiative and coming up to me.
I love that, right?
Yeah.
You never know. I never know.
No,
So
okay, that needs to be needle pointed on a pillow. You never know.
That's right. You know, I always wanted to be needle pointed on a pillow, so let me know when it's done.
Okay.
Because I'm going to want it for my sofa. So thank you for that. That's great. That's great. So, all right, I'm going to throw out the first one, the first habit from this piece. And we're not necessarily going to go through their 5 because, you know, as you guys, well, you might recall from our last conversation with JP, and I think you already said it once this evening, Jane, that, you know, part of what JP does professionally is he's a confidence coach. So I'm guessing that I'm going to start with the 1. Maybe we're going to get to all 5 of these, but maybe we're just going to go on our own tangents with other ones that kind of come to our mind in terms of ones that might serve people. So the one that I want to surface here is this idea that people who are confident or seem confident are always growing. So they're always seeking out new information. They're always seeking out new sources. I know I've referred to the book I'm reading right now called Think Again, and it's about this idea that the smartest people in the room are the ones who are constantly trying to prove themselves wrong, right? Because that means they're constantly seeking information, especially information that counters what they think. So when I saw that one, that confident people have the habit of always growing, I was like, yeah, of course, that makes perfect sense. What does it make you guys think about?
Right.
Well, I mean, for me, it brings up the growth versus fixed mindset, and growth mindset is exactly that. If you're always looking for, what's next and how can this get bigger, or the opportunities or whatever, that definitely increases confidence, because you have that one passion to for that growth, for whatever it is.
Right.
But two, that knowledge, or that the belief that it can be better, and so that is a great way to build confidence, is
Oh my
knowing,
gosh, yeah.
this is temporary. Where we're at
Yep.
right now, I mean, this is a snapshot of where we're at. Where are we going? Let's go,
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
that really is a skill, because really, I think what we're talking about is a confident person learns how to learn.
Yes.
I like that.
And oftentimes people want eternal truths so that they can say, done.
Right. Yep.
And confidence is not a state that you attain and then you move on in life. Confidence is a lifetime undertaking.
Right.
You have to nurture it.
It's the person who reaches a point where they have no interest in learning, and that's what the deadening of the spirit is all about.
Amen.
Right. That is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just quickly say, I think, so my website, as I said before, is the business of confidence, and that's what I'm in the business of, as you indicated. And I think people mistakenly think that confidence is something I'm going to acquire.
Yeah. Yeah. Something somebody can give me.
Right.
Yes. And it's not. Confidence is action. Confidence is about doing. So when we talk about confidence, it's really not so much about being confident as it is about doing confidence. How do you do confidence?
Yeah.
And it's in the doing rather than the being.
That's 100%.
And I think that's what this first habit speaks to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to extend that, because what you made me think of, JP, is this idea that I do think that, especially if you're somebody who sees yourself as lacking confidence and you're trying to develop it or cultivate it, like you said, Jane, then part of it is acting that way. Right. And the book I referenced earlier, Atomic Habits, that's a part of what he talks about is, who do you want to be? Start acting like that person.
Yep.
Right.
Start
acting like that. Yeah.
Yep.
And he uses examples like, if you want to be, because all of us chase the idea of losing weight, right? Instead of saying, I'm going to lose weight, say, I'm going to be a healthy person. Okay, so how would a healthy person act, right? What would a healthy person do? So I love the idea of tying that habit of they're always growing in terms of confidence to that idea of act that way, right? Yeah.
And it is because a lot of times people will come to me in my coaching capacity, as I'm sure for yourself, Jane, yourself, Janice. And the question they come to us with is, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
And I always say, before we look at what you need to do, you need to answer, who do I want to be?
Yes.
And when you know who you want to be, then the doing flows virtually naturally.
That's it.
100%.
That's it.
Yep. And so to piggyback on both of yours, because there's a little bit of yours, JP, and a little bit of yours, Janice, that act as if when I speak to my career not colleagues, but clients, career coaching clients, and they say, oh, I need to make more money or whatever. And I said, okay, well, act your wage, whatever wage you're seeking.
There you go.
What are the habits of the person that's in that threshold? What habits do they have? What does that look like? What do they do? How do they have meetings? And they're like, oh, yeah. So it's all about creating those habits and act as if, and so that really helps people kind of visualize what they need to do. Like, that's what I need to do. Yes.
Yep. What it looks like.
So if I may, just to piggyback
again,
I think we're on like our piggyback to the piggyback and the piggyback. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to take a moment to underscore the word practice. In my, so I teach twice a year, winter quarter, summer quarter, coming up, summer quarter, give a plug, at UCLA Extension School, an 11-week course on the dynamics of interpersonal communication.
Okay.
And beginning in week 2, a half hour before the class ends, I hand out index cards. And I invite each of the participants to simply write down in the coming week, what is something that you are going to practice doing more of?
Yeah.
Or what is something that you are going to practice doing less of?
Okay.
Because in that setting, a lot of times people will sign up for a course, sign up for a webinar, sign up for whatever, read a book, and they think that by osmosis, just by the act of going to the webinar or the workshop or reading the book, that they will automatically change. No, as we all know, that's not how change comes about. Right. It's through mindful practicing. And it's so interesting because in the beginning weeks, people have these massive goals.
Yeah.
I am going to be this coming week, I'm going to talk to everybody that I meet. Really? Because you're going to meet some a-holes this coming week that you probably won't want to talk to. All right. But it's just make it small, make it doable.
Yep.
Into the habit of practicing a habit, and slowly, steadily, the progress is made.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is, so I want to underscore, because we can throw around the word practice because it's a common word and people, oh yeah, no, I'm going to practice. No, but no, this means you can, and everybody in the class carries around for the week that index card in their pocket, jacket, purse, briefcase, whatever it may be, so that you're periodically looking at it and it's like, what have I done with this? And over time, people start to hold each other accountable, which is another thing in terms of practice. If you can get a buddy to practice
heck yeah.
with.
Yeah.
An accountability practice buddy.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. I like that.
So
I like that.
Right.
I love, there's so many things there, JP. And so, but instead of piggybacking, because we're into like the 10th, I think, iteration of piggybacking, I'm going to throw a different one at you guys. And I want, and you guys can start, and then I'll add anything after I hear you guys. So one of the habits that this article prescribes in terms of being confident is, and I love this one, that people who are confident have the habit of being uncomfortable. They're comfortable being uncomfortable. And I just think that's fantastic. So let me hear it. What are you thinking?
Yes. Because it goes to the fact that a confident person knows that there are areas of their life where they are not either confident and or comfortable, and growth will only come through challenging themselves. So yesterday, I came up with, easily a dozen convincing reasons why I was just too busy to go to the networking event. I mean, really, and I was like, wow, I'm good. I mean, I'm really good at BSing myself.
Yeah.
And it is, was the event earth-shattering? No. Did I actually meet anybody new? No. Did I strengthen ties with people that are already in my circle, however, who I have not seen because of the pandemic, and reconnected in real time with them? It was yes. It was worth my while. And it would not have come about had I not said, yes, I'm uncomfortable and I'm going to go to the event.
That's right. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
I like that.
JP, I'm proud of you. Proud of you for not talking yourself out of it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And it is that idea, right? Discomfort is a form of self-growth, right? It is a way when we push ourselves through, when I think about like kids, right? Interacting with kids, and there are lots of, well, even as adults, right? We all have those moments where we have that pit in our stomach, whether it's a hard conversation we have to have, something that we have to do that we've been dreading, whatever it is. And courage is about pushing back or pushing past the pit, right? And doing it anyway. It's not about not being afraid. It's about pushing through the fear and going to the other side and doing it anyway.
Well, I love that, because we all know, okay, we have how many, if each of us had $1 for every time we heard the following phrase, we could be doing this podcast in our shared home in Beverly Hills. The phrase, oh, yeah, that's hard. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I can do that. That's really hard.
Yep.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, it is hard. Yes. Yeah. And that's why you're in this workshop. This is why you're in this program. This is why you reached out to me. It's hard. Now, is there any other reason you have for not doing what I suggested?
Exactly. If we stopped at it's hard, where in the heck would we be, right?
Well, there's a quote that I heard a couple of years back, and I was like, that's it. And it takes zero effort to exist. It's hard work to live.
I love that.
And it's true. It's so true. And to this point, even though I have no problem being in front of 400 people, whatever, but there's days where you're not feeling it, you're not feeling good. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep, whatever, but you still have to do it. There's people depending on you. And so one of the techniques that I use, because I am a confident person and I know I have a job to do and do all those things, is I imagine the very end where everybody's like, great job, Jane. Nice. Great job. I'm like, woo, all right, I'm done. And I imagine that as like the pit in your stomach and stuff like that. And I'm just not feeling it, but I'm like, you know what? It's going to be awesome. No matter what, it's going to be awesome. And I'm confident in that. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm not going to have a ton of fun internally, but I'm going to put on the best show that I can and make this happen because these people are relying on me. And it brings to mind that confident people, other people rely on that a lot.
Yep.
And then I think about the people that I would be letting down if I let my confidence falter, or whatever. And so that's what gets me through it, is just imagining the end and being like, okay, it's all done. I'm driving home already, and just like that, I kind of manifest that and it goes smooth and everything happens. And then I'm driving home just as I thought I would be, so that's how I keep my confidence when it comes to, being uncomfortable.
So, Jane, that really then speaks to the core truth of all of this. Okay. You've now hit core truth, is that what we think influences how we feel.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
How we feel.
Yeah.
How we feel influences what we do.
Right.
Right. And so it's this notion of, and this is really at the heart of what I do in my coaching. It's thoughts create feelings.
Right.
Feelings lead to action. So the question always becomes, what are you thinking?
Right.
Are you
Wait a minute.
Yourself? And it's you just gave the perfect example.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. When I don't have the energy or when I'm not feeling, it's like, this is what I say to this is what I think. The
Yep.
imagination, what you're, and that then generates the commitment
Mm-hmm.
to the project at hand. But
Yeah.
it's all about thought. And I ask people all the time, they'll say to me, oh, I can't, for instance, I can't speak in public. Well, why? People will laugh at me.
Yeah.
And I'll say, oh, you've had experience with, that must have been very traumatic when people laughed at you. Oh, well, no one's really laughed at me. I said, oh, no one's ever laughed at you. No. Well, then how do you know people now next week?
Right.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
At you? And the answer always is something like, oh, I just know.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That's one of my favorite
Easiest
answers.
answer on the face of the earth. Oh, I just know.
You just know. Well, so does every comedian, and they don't always get laughs. So
That's right. That's right.
But it's that people think they are telling themselves truth when they're simply doing creative soap opera writing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And not even realizing it, which ties very nicely to one of the other ones that I wanted to lift out of here. And it's this idea that people with confidence have the habit of being able to tame their inner critic. So it gets to what you're talking about, JP, in terms of what are you thinking? And so this piece goes on to talk about the ability to have compassion for yourself builds confidence, right? Being able to actually have compassion for yourself, which kind of ties into, Jane, what you're talking about in terms of envisioning the end, right? Acknowledging like where you are and how you feel, but then being able to envision the end as a way to kind of overshadow, if you will, the voice in your head that's going, it's going to be, you're going to suck. They're not going to think it's funny, or they're going to this, or they're going to that, or whatever, right? But you being able to envision the end of it, where I'm assuming every time you envision that, you're succeeding, right? People are clapping, yeah. They're not booing you off the stage. That's, to your point, JP, that's using thought to drive feelings and feelings to drive action. That's beautiful.
Right. And, that notion of being kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Can the three of us and everybody listening in just hold hands and have a moment of Zen on that one?
I'm seeing Kumbaya because yes, exactly.
I mean, and it's so easy to not be kind to our own self. A few years ago, my godson now lives in Texas, sniffle. But when he was still here in LA, we would, once a month, go to an escape room.
Ah, nice.
That's a whole other podcast, escape rooms. And to listen to the two of us in the escape room, we would sound like an old married couple. We would just bicker and it's like, what is your problem? It's like, what is my problem? What is your problem? You're 18 years old. You're supposed to know how to get out of this room. And you teach at UCLA. I said, all right. So, and it's like, who's ever listening in, it's like, who are these people? But one time I remember he just got so frustrated, Finn, and he said, oh, we're just so stupid. And I said, never say that. I said, do not say we're stupid. I said, you can say we're weird and odd, but you cannot say we're stupid.
Yeah.
But how often do people in a fit of frustration say, oh, I'm just so stupid? It's such a common phrase. And confident people resist labeling themselves stupid.
Oh, yeah. That's so true.
And what does it mean to be kind to oneself, to be compassionate? It means to not call yourself names that you would never think of calling other people.
That's right. And hopefully would never accept or allow somebody else to call you, but that's not always the case, right? So yeah, that's so important. And again, back to the what you think, right? And you're getting into the space of what you allow yourself to think, right? Or you catch yourself. We're not perfect. And certainly I'm sure we can all think of times where we tell, that voice is going on in our heads and we have to literally rein it in, right? And just kind of say out loud, stop, right? Enough. And then kind of take a deep breath and be able to move forward.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it too. The last one then that this particular article espouses, and then JP, before we hopped on, people don't know this, so I'm going to tell them. You mentioned doing a piece at some point around 10 habits. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go to all 10, but I'm going to be curious about maybe your top one or two outside of what we've talked about.
Okay.
But the last one here I think is really important because they say one habit that you see in confident people is that they're willing to speak up. They're actually willing to, and this doesn't necessarily mean in front of, like you said, Jane, a group of 400 people, but basically when they have ideas, they say them out loud, right? To whomever their audience is, versus questioning themselves so much that they never actually share what they're thinking out loud. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's another really, and I see how it's a habit because again, lots of us have, dare I say, all of us have ideas, but
Right.
all of us also have that inner voice. And if you let the inner voice be the thing that keeps you from saying something out loud, that's a habit, right? You're allowing that to happen. So yeah.
Absolutely right.
Okay, so now you've raised a very interesting point.
Okay, good. I meant to kind
Yes.
of. What did I miss?
Because on the one hand, let me say yes, I agree. It's a habit that habit of keeping things inside needs to be addressed. One of the interesting things is in the realm of communication, there's all different types of styles, styles of listening, styles of expressing emotions, et cetera, et cetera. There's also what has been identified as two distinct styles for processing information. One is called talk to think.
Uh-huh.
The other is called think to talk. So a talk to thinker is the person who in the meeting, you know what, I'm just bear with me for a moment. I want to, and they'll start talking.
Yeah.
Like, okay, where's this going? Well, what they are doing is oftentimes processing an idea by talking out loud about it. Then there are those people who want to mentally, interiorly process the information. And then when they've formulated it, they're going to make their statement out loud. The problem is oftentimes by the time they're ready to speak, the conversation has gotten off on topic. And confident people, I think, to nuance what the article said, confident people are aware of what their leaning is. Are they a talk to thinker or a think to talker? And they can make adjustments based on the occasion, the goal, and the person with whom they're speaking.
Sure.
Agreed. Because you need that confidence to be able to, or that confident person, the habit is to bring it up with the right timing, and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people don't feel confident about bringing up certain issues or whatever they're thinking because they're afraid of the reaction or response from what they're going to get. So if it's not perfect, or if it's not a perfect idea, or if they're, still trying to think it out, they won't say it. And confident people will kind of like process the information very quickly and go, you know what, I'm going to say something right here.
Right.
Or take a different time to bring it up, and I'm one of those people that I'm like the whistleblower all the time, but not in a bad negative way, but it's like, wait a minute, like this is what we're seeing, and this is the pattern. So we're going to do something, right? Or, and if I'm told no, I'm like, okay, see you in a couple of months.
Right.
I'll come back and I will be consistent along with the issue to the point where then now we're addressing it because now the message was received, and that takes confidence because some people don't say things because nobody will listen to me.
Right.
Whatever, the excuses come. So So I remember the think to talk and the talk to think, because I'm definitely, I believe I'm a talk to think.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, let me process this. But I have found myself recently doing a lot more thinking to talk, and in certain situations, because I feel like that think to talk it jumps over, and it disrupts the flow sometimes, and so I'm like changing it up a little bit in some areas,
Right.
actually change
Nice.
things, because it's not appropriate all the time. So that's the thing.
Yeah, it depends on the circumstances, right? But I hadn't thought about it that way, JP. And I would say I probably am more of a talk to think, mostly because I feel like, professionally speaking, when I'm in situations, I feel like the groups I work with, we're all kind of doing that, right? Like, the purpose of us being together is to think through something together. And so, but to your point, Jane, you have to be really careful with that, right? And there are times, I know, I don't necessarily think I say, JP, like you said, let me just talk this out for a second. But there are times where, and just this week, I remember being in a conversation where I'm talking, and then I stop myself and I said, no, wait, that's not what I want to say. Let me think about it for a second. And then somebody else jumped in, and then I just stepped back. Right. So, but I think that's the risk of talk to think, is that before you think about it, it's out of your mouth. And sometimes that can work against you. Right. And you got to, like, rein it back in.
And so, you see what we're talking about is, again, it's about style.
Yes.
And I know that a confident person is aware of what their various styles of communicating are about.
100%.
They understand that it's a style. It's where they're most comfortable. A confident person is, when we talk about being challenging themselves, being uncomfortable, confident person is willing to challenge themselves to develop that other style, recognizing it's not going to be your dominant style.
Right.
However, I'm not going to ignore it. I'm not going to, even if I'm uncomfortable, I'm still going to acquire that skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had to do that, because I noticed that when talk to think, it doesn't always mesh with everybody or the situation.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, I'm going to put this in the back of my brain for a minute, and I'm going to mull it over, after I get back to my office, and then I'll send the email or something like that. And it's actually helped a lot, because we don't always have time to brainstorm or whatever the case may be. And it saves time and energy as well, knowing which style you need to dip into at that time. So that's a great point. I like that.
I love that. I love it. And I'm thinking about all of this in terms of the coaching I do around parenting, because often I feel like as parents, whether you're the parent of 1 or 20, right? Well, maybe by the time you get to like 10 or 15, you feel pretty confident. But in those early ones, right, we're constantly questioning ourselves, constantly wondering if we're doing it right, quote unquote, etc. And especially as our kids get older and get into those years where they push back, because when your kid's telling you you're doing it wrong, whether you are or not, you tend to kind of go, oh no, maybe I am doing it wrong. If all the other parents are doing this, like my kid is saying, which of course is never true, then maybe I've got to rethink it, right? So one of the expressions I've been thinking about lately in terms of that is how to parent with purpose and confidence. And the confidence piece really comes, and I look at these things we talked about this evening, being uncomfortable or comfortable with being uncomfortable, and quieting your inner voice and showing yourself compassion and being willing to speak up. And those are all things that when I look at parents who I support who lack confidence in their parenting, those are all habits they don't have. Right? They don't have, those tend to be the habits that they need to build in order to build their confidence, just in that particular role. Right. Because we have lots of them. Yeah.
Well, I think the 6 lies that we tell ourselves fall into there as well, as they do, because needing to be liked, and, I'm responsible for how they feel. Those are those excuses that lead us to those bad habits of not communicating or not being confident as a parent.
Yeah.
And it's really being able to stop lying to ourselves, and then build those habits, and then become confident enough to handle things the way we need to handle them,
Yeah, very true.
So what all of that means is, and this is not an original thought that I had, but I've made it a quasi co-opted thought. I read somewhere, don't remember where, that the go-to phrase for a confident person is, quote, "I'll handle it."
Oh,
Oh.
yes.
I'll handle it.
Yeah.
And it's okay. This is the course of action I'm going to do. If it messes up, I'll handle it.
Right.
It's not about passing the buck. It's not about blaming. It's understanding, okay, I'm going to commit to this course of action. If it doesn't work out, I will handle it.
It's going to be okay. Yeah.
It's a reduction in drama, guilt tripping,
yes,
catastrophic thinking. It's okay, I'll handle it.
Yep. I actually said that today to my boss. I'm like, look, I'll just handle it. And she's like, all right. And there's no question, because she knows without a doubt, she doesn't think, she knows that I will handle it 100% and to the point that they want me to. They don't need to say anything else other than I'll handle it. And that's all she needed to hear. And that's done. Because I have proven and my habits shown, and I walk the walk or I walk the talk, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
So she's confident in my confidence.
That's it. That's it. Well, and my version of that is I got it. So I don't say I'll handle it. I say I got it. And I remember vividly, I don't even know where this memory is coming from, but a million years ago, when I was shifting from being a special educator in a private part of the industry, private school, et cetera, with kids with really severe disabilities, to going to public school. And it was like October, right? So the school year, if they're hiring a teacher in October, they're desperate, right? Like that's just the truth. But I remember going to an interview in this district, and it was to be a teacher of students with autism. And clearly the district had no money, and I remember in the interview, the woman asking me questions was basically like trying to measure what I could handle, right? Because, she said, well, what if this happens? And what if we don't have a classroom? And what if and I just remember saying to her, I got it. Give me a closet. Wherever you put me, wherever you put us, we'll be fine. We'll make it happen. And I had never taught my own classroom of students with autism by myself. And yet I didn't question my ability to do it. I knew I would.
You were confident.
Right. Yeah. That's it. So, and mostly, I guess so JP, that really makes me think about what's behind that, right? Like, how did I develop that? How did Jane develop that? How did you develop that? Like, and I have my own thoughts, but go ahead, Jane, jump in.
I'm going to say it's our figure it out factor.
Yeah.
We have the skill set. We've learned, and I know that I learned this as a child, how to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because there's not somebody there to help you. So you got to figure it the fuck out.
Right.
And I know that no matter what anybody puts in front of me, I will figure it the fuck out.
Yeah.
And it may take me 5 minutes. It may take me 20 hours, but I'm going to get it figured out and I'm going to get it handled. So I think that survival skills are part of that, but also critical thinking, being creative, thinking outside of the box, problem solving, people that love puzzles. It's all of that,
right.
and if you're stimulated in that way and it speaks to you, it's fun. I love figuring things out. Let me handle it, please. Yeah. I love that challenge. I got this. I'm going to prove to you. I'm also intrinsically motivated. Can you tell? And so
not at all, actually.
To myself,
I was worried.
So it's motivation as well, you guys. It's motivation. It's all of those things.
That's but I'm gonna where I was gonna go with it as well, Jane, was this idea that when you grow up in homes like we did, where nobody was going to give you the fucking answer, and nobody cared if you failed,
right?
Then you do start to you either don't survive or you do. And in order to survive, you really, it's not that I had critical thinking skills, it's that I developed them because I needed them to survive, right? It's not that I had courage, I developed it because I needed it to survive, right? But that idea that, whereas in a lot of, homes now, right, kids are we coddle them so much, we're so afraid of them failing, right? And what that will do to them, etc. So I don't know, there's something I got to dig into myself a little bit more.
That oh God, so interesting. It's like Why don't we just rename this podcast Pajama Party? Because these
Oh, you
topics.
want to hang out with us, JP?
Oh my God, it's all these, it's like late night radio, midnight
We can call
radio.
these segments JP's Pajama Party.
I love it.
That could be the segment.
I love it.
I like it.
Because you see, I come at this on the flip side of your childhood experience.
Okay.
And my flip side, while it may on the surface look like parents who coddled, it's not the coddling.
Yeah.
I grew up in a family where it was very regimented. And so there was little room for, well, there was no room for disagreement. There was no room for, the question was never asked, what would you like?
Right.
What would you be interested in?
Sure.
It's right. Everybody get in the car. Where are we going? You'll know when we get there.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and so that notion of, for me, I'll handle it. I don't think my brother and I were allowed to ever even entertain that phrase, I'll handle it, because it was understood that no, we'll handle it and you'll do it the way we've told you to do it.
Right.
And that was for and so it wasn't coddling, it was more regimental.
Right.
And
right.
you know, the other component to this is, so I think I mentioned, I forget now if I mentioned to your audience that, you know, I had the good fortune to live on an island in the South Pacific for 3 years. And I taught at obviously a boarding school because there was no way you could go home if you're in the middle of nowhere. And it was 120 students. It was the first high school of its kind in that region of the Pacific. And when I arrived, and I had volunteered, they had the college I was at, they had asked for volunteers. They were looking for recruits for teaching. I was ready for a National Geographic experience. I raised my hand, like, hey, sounds good to me.
Sure.
Before there was Google search. So I just is like, give me the plane ticket, I'll get on the plane. No idea where I was going.
Wow.
Literally, no idea where
you were like looking at the globe, right? You were
it's just even to this day, if you look at the island grouping is called Chuk, C-H-U-U-K. Back then it was called Truck. And when I got to the high school, I went in January, mid-year, and the principal said to me, so you're going to be teaching the juniors. And by the way, we don't have textbooks. They got destroyed in the hurricane.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, okay. And no textbooks.
And no internet and no Pinterest. I want to make sure everybody understands the scope of this, right?
Yes. Precisely. Yes. Thank you. But yes. And I remember like just sitting down and thinking, okay, who are all of the teachers I couldn't stand in high school and college? And then I thought, who are the teachers that I admired?
Okay.
That was a very short list.
Amen.
Yes.
Very short. And I simply decided, okay, everything that I didn't like about the teachers I didn't like, I'm not going to do.
There you go.
Look at that.
So I learned to teach by doing in reverse.
Yeah.
What I did not appreciate.
Yep.
And I was in a situation where I had to adapt to the phrase, I'll handle it, because nobody was handing me a textbook, a curriculum, or whatever. And if I didn't handle it, those juniors would not, they'd have a free period because they'd be no fun.
Right, exactly.
So to your point, Jane, it is this notion of, you know, well, how does it come about? How does one embrace that attitude of, I've got it, I'll handle it? And there's a lot of different factors. And
You
Well,
know,
that's what I'll
you know
say.
what?
There's a lot of different
I
factors.
think it's going to go back to the very first one, growth. And I think that if you have a growth mindset, you will do what you need to do to make things happen. And if you don't, and you're fixed mindset, you're not going to get up in front of that crowd. You're going to feel uncomfortable and walk right away from it. You're not going to ask the hard questions because you don't want to get called out or whatever the case may be. And those confident people are the ones that need to get it figured out. It's not just survival. In all of our cases, it was survival in some way, shape, or form, but it's also the want and the drive to serve whoever it is that we're serving.
Yes.
I'm serving my children, you know, and to your point, JP, and I've said this before, everything my mom did that I didn't like, I don't do.
Right.
Because I remembered how I felt. I remember how it made me feel, and it sucked. And I never wanted my children. Hold on. Hey, sorry, guys.
She's yelling at her children. I'm kidding.
Yes. You little brats. No, I'm just kidding.
So bad. So bad.
Listen to your mother. Okay. But everything that my parents did that I, you know, whatever, I didn't want my kids to feel that way. I couldn't imagine making children, my future children, feel that way. And so just like you, JP, everything that they did that I didn't like, I don't do.
Yeah.
And everything that I like, I do. I had a very short list, so I had to create, oh my gosh, I had to create more things that I liked, but
Right.
or learn them from everybody else as I went on. But I mean, it really goes back to that growth mindset. And that's, I think that's the catalyst to this all, is being willing to learn and continue to learn, or shutting it down.
Well, and it ties to also kind of circling back to where we were, which is good because we should all be thinking about our final thought here as we wrap up. It ties back to toward the beginning to this idea of who do you want to be? And
Right.
what you're both talking about right now is also identifying who you don't want to be, and
100%.
then being intentional about not being those people. So my last piece that I'm going back to is this notion of an accountability partner, right? A buddy, I think is what you said, JP. And for me, that's so important because, and you know, all of us coach in our own ways. It's not surprising given who we are as people, etc. And one of the things I value most about those relationships, whether they're formal coaching relationships or the informal kind of mentoring and friendship that we have with people in our lives, but I value both having people who do it for me and being the person for other people who just send the quick text, right? If I know you're working on something very specific and it's a way to be a different version of yourself that you aspire to be, then to be that person who sends you that quick text to say, I know you have this happening today and this, right? You've got this, whatever it is. It can be as simple as that, or it can be more specific, but I think that idea of, you know, if you're somebody who feels like you lack confidence and you know it's something that you aspire to, enlisting someone else in your life that you trust to be a partner in helping you develop those habits, I think is something that's a really important idea. Jane, you're muted.
I said, yeah, Janice is right about everything.
I thought that's what you said, but I needed the rest of the world to hear it. So I'm really glad you repeated it. Thank you for that. We are recording. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's still red. That is.
Absolutely. So what are you guys thinking? Like, so again, this whole episode really has been about, you know, in our day-to-day lives, this idea of confidence came up and we had an opportunity to have a conversation about it and share it with the folks who listen. So what are you thinking in terms of a final kind of messaging for folks who are thinking about this idea of confidence and who they are?
Jane?
Well, what about you, Janice?
No, I already said mine. JP
picking on
gets the
me.
last word. JP gets the last
Okay.
word. He's our guest. Would you treat him like the guest
Okay,
that
yeah,
he
I'll
is?
say something. Jeez. Look, guys.
It's all.
This is why I want the pajama party.
I'm not confident at all.
Why we need the pajama party.
Bullshit.
But look, guys, confidence is not something I've always had. And it's definitely been developed over the years. It's definitely been something that I'm still developing because I'm not confident in all things. But I do know that I can do all things. And so it's just gaining that confidence in that area. But growth mindset, huge thing. Hey, feelings, who do you want to be? So just remember who you were, who you are now, and who you want to be. And that's my final thought on that, because we can never be who we were. Who we are now may not be the person that we want to be, but we know who we want to be, and that's something to grow towards. So
Love that.
Yeah. There you go, JP.
So I'll piggyback on the two of you.
Got
You just really love riding our back, don't you, JP?
I know, right?
Okay, so I earlier today had a conversation with a woman who is going to enter into a coaching relationship with me, and I ended my conversation with her with this thought. There was a French poet who once said, "When you come to the place of your greatest fear, there you will find freedom."
Wow.
And I know that in terms of confidence, it's about allowing yourself to go to the place of your greatest fear. And there you will find your freedom.
Oh.
Everything that we do, like that, but everything that we talked about tonight in one way or another was saying, however it comes about, it's going to a place of fear.
Yeah.
And taking a breath and allowing yourself to feel, experience, and do whatever that freedom is.
I mean, it couldn't have been better if we paid you to be on this episode. So, you know.
You're not paying me?
We don't have a budget. Sorry.
Actually, I think we charge you to be on the episode. So the bill's in the mail, friend.
Where's
Don't
our
you
money?
worry. It's on its way. It's on its way.
Right.
No, in all seriousness, love that. And there's no question in my mind that there are people out there listening who are taking something away from this conversation. And frankly, even if you're somebody who came into it going confidence, I mean, I got plenty of swagger and confidence. I bet you know somebody in your life who doesn't, who you can then in a really concrete way now turn around and maybe share some ideas, especially those last words of wisdom from JP. JP, we're going to have you on about 1 million more times.
Oh, okay.
Part of our posse
when
we
my
go on the road.
pajamas.
Yep.
We're in our J posse. We're all J's.
That's right. That's right. So when we go on the road, there is going to be a place for you selling t-shirts, friend. I just want you to know. You are right there.
Can't you just see him in one of our shirts, our two faces, one on each neck? Yes. Yes.
I like it. I like
Always
it.
A delight. Always a delight.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for spending the time with us. And folks, we look forward to seeing you next time. We've got Mother's Day episode, Father's Day episode coming up. We're going to wrap up the season, on a strong note before we take a little bit of break. So we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Yeehaw. All right. Thanks, guys.